I'm going to sit down and look up at my nose.
I don't know what it's supposed to be. You're getting me in this thing, Jason. Why do you know anything about it? I'm afraid of being walk over here today. Wasn't that long a walk, so hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Owensboro to proclaim this important anniversary. Women all across the state and country, and right here in Davis County, marched and spoke and wrote articles and signed petitions. Sometimes women were jailed and force-fed and mocked and reviled, but they did not give up. The vote means power, superpower, and that's why we're here today. I think now we will have the welcome from the presentation of colors. Somebody has to us in meditation and prayer right now. Before I begin, I would like to invite you to pause for a moment in sympathy and support for those who died in Afghanistan today. Spirit of life and liberty, we are gathered to celebrate the certification of the 19th Amendment on this day 101 years ago. This amendment, assuring there would be no impediment to voting based on sex, is a treasured moment in our American history. Be with us as we reflect on its meaning at this event. Spirit of peace and justice, the day of certification was a hard-won day. It was a day that was a remembrance of a right still withheld in too many places around the world. As we remember the suffragettes and their allies, we are inspired by their vision and decades of persistence. Keep us steady and faithful to the work for voting rights that is still before us. As we remember the legislators and activists early in the last century, we see possibilities for social change in our era. Open our hands to partnerships with those still denied any of their rights. As we stand beside a monument of Elise Gasser Kirtley, a local woman of courage and conviction and amazing firsts in our area and the Commonwealth, strengthen our resolve to step up and to step out, even when others can't or won't. And as we stand in recollection, we acknowledge too how much was left undone on that day in 1920. Let us extend our celebration to all those who broadened the effort in the waves of civil and human rights work throughout the 20th century. Keep us honest about our own shortcomings and make us worthy of all who gave themselves to secure our rights. Renew our resolve to continue the work for justice. Bless and sustain those who complete our work and begin even greater things. Finally, spirit of wisdom and mercy, as we commemorate this stepping stone to justice with joy and gratitude, we stand together in humble prayer. Open our eyes to what we've yet overlooked or avoided. Open our ears to our neighbors pleading for help and hope. Open our minds to better understanding of the needs in our community and society. And open our hearts to discern the best ways to overcome the tyranny of hidden oppression, to subdue the danger of unexamined majority, to heal divisions, and to truly embrace the common good rather than our own comfort. In peace we pray. Thank you, God, and amen. We're now going to have some music. Dr. Dennis Jewett is the director, but I don't believe he's with us today, are you? Oh, okay. Well, but he has sent to us the voices of Shelby Ratliff, Susan Dant, Lorraine North, and Olivia Lynch. And they are going to sing my very favorite, America the Beautiful, and then they're going to sing a couple of suffrage songs for us. Ladies.
Above the fruited plain, triumphant has rolled from shore to shore, a song of joy and gladness which we'll sing forevermore. Woman suffrage sure is coming to the land which we adore. Come help us win the vote. Soon the women will be voting. Soon the women will be voting. Soon the women will be voting. Come help us win the vote. Come sisters of the sunny south, we need your help today. Come comrades of the eastern states, we know you're on your way. Our western sisters join us and they sing this happy lay. You soon will win the vote. Soon the women will be voting. Soon the women will be voting. Soon the women will be voting. You soon will win the vote. When woman comes marching to her own, hurrah, hurrah, a royal welcome she'll be shown, hurrah, hurrah. The bells will ring, the band will play, we'll give her Godspeed on her way, for we'll bless the day when woman comes to her own. The very streets will smile and shout, hurrah, hurrah, for cleanliness to reign throughout, hurrah, hurrah. The winds will set, the air goes free, the birds will join and sing, for gleeful will bless the day when woman comes to her own. With no uncertain step she comes, hurrah, hurrah. She'll sweep the city of its slums, hurrah, hurrah. She'll show us how to legislate, to save and to upbuild the state. We'll bless the day when woman comes to her own.
Thank you all so much. That really sets the tone and gets our hearts beating here today. This morning, Keith Lawrence had an article in the paper that some of you may have read, and he was talking about the writer or the musician, Tom T. Hall, and he said that one of the things that it made me think of this, that he was writing about America the Beautiful, and he said, if we get our heads and hearts together, we won't have to hear the song America the Ugly today. And I would hope that the whole purpose of this thing today is to get our heads and hearts together, working for equality for everybody. At this time, I would like to recognize Judge Executive Al Mattingly, who has a proclamation and a few words.
What I'm going to do is, first of all, welcome all of you to, in my opinion, the nicest green space in downtown Owensboro. And it's one of the nicest spaces because of our groundskeeper, Jerry Alms, back here. Jerry, raise your hand. Everything that you see on this lawn is because of his hard work. And, you know, he brought out the chairs, spaced them, put everything together, and he'll stay and clean it up when this is all over, right, Jerry? That's what I thought. Before I say anything or go any further, I want to welcome our folks from the mayor's office to come up and read their proclamation and to have a few remarks. I think it's only fitting and neighborly.
Commissioner Mark Caslin is going to have a few words to say.
ladies and gentlemen, I'm Commissioner Mark Caslin. I just want to thank you all for showing up today and inviting me to come to this great event. There's more people here than what I thought would be, and that says a lot for our city as far as people supporting each other and people wanting to vote. We gather here today to celebrate 101 years of women having the right to vote. Let us not forget that this right was not given. It was fought for and won by strong, determined women. Women who had marched, women who had hunger strikes, and women who protested for a long time to get this right. As I look around here, I see a lot of strong women, and I feel fortunate to have all of you here. The resolve to win and overcome all obstacles is what has brought this chance for women to vote to the forefront and has made it last for 101 years. But we have to remember that although we fought for this and we have won this right, we can never forget that we must stand true and keep fighting for women's rights and for these young children that are growing up, which is great to see them show up today. And to also remember that we must never forget and let this opportunity ever be taken away from the women in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Caslin. I was going to have you speak, but I thought since it was the home turf for the judge, I was going to let him go first, but now he has to be able to come up. He has to be able to come up and be as good as you. Yeah. I also, City Commissioner Bob Glenn says he wants to say a few words, and far be it from me to keep these men from speaking.
But I'm here to support women in their cause. Let me just share a real quick story with you. My name's Bob Glenn. I'm the City Commissioner. Many years ago, my father walked out on my mother and I. She raised me as a single parent. And she went to the bank to pay the rent, normal procedure, and there was $8.79 in that checking account. There was not enough money to buy groceries. There was not enough money to pay the rent on our apartment. And she went to the bank manager and she said, I didn't do this. There's got to be money here. I need help. And he said, well, ma'am, you can't do anything by yourself. You're a woman. But I'm going to do you a favor, and I'm going to co-sign a temporary loan for you and a credit card for you and separate all these other obligations to your I assume will be your ex-husband. That was in 1971. Now I want you to think about this. Voting means nothing, as Aloma has pointed out, for all of us if we don't use it to change the world. And that's what my mother did each and every time she voted. She voted for men and women of character who are ready to produce equity in the workplace, in school, and in every other place. And finally, I'll conclude with this. When we look at Afghanistan, we'll look at all that young women and women in that country have gained over the last 20 years at the sacrifice of the blood and treasure of our soldiers. And all of that may be lost in the blink of an eye. But let's not lose it here in America, and every step we can take to promote it in other countries, let's do it. Women and girls deserve every right possible to grow, to evolve, and to become the most productive citizens possible. That's what this day is about, and that's what the 19th Amendment is about.
Spoken like a true feminist. And now another feminist is going to come and speak briefly.
I've never done anything briefly. So, now if I was smart, I wouldn't have allowed Bob to speak in front of me. I think Bob is a teacher out at OC, a professor at OCTC, and he teaches speech, debate, and what else, all kinds of stuff, just part-time. All right. You know, we're here for a couple reasons today. One is to rededicate the memorial to Louise Kirtley Gasser. And I would just say what I said last year and was printed in the Messenger Enquirer, that this monument, this memorial, is the first one on this courthouse lawn dedicated to a woman. How about that? All these years, you look around and you see monuments dedicated to lots of men, and most of these monuments have something to do with war of one type or another. I think we could probably find some women that we could dedicate them to, because a lot of the women that I've known have been just as mean and nasty as some of the men that these things are dedicated to. Oh, by the way, Will, I saw you come up. Hi, son. When I attended the Multicultural Festival Saturday, one of the things, I stopped by a booth and it talked about women of note. And it got me to thinking, women of note. And certainly Louise Kirtley Gasser was a woman of note. But there are lots of women of note in this community that live their lives and they are never noted, except by those who love them. One of them is Mildred Lucas, and I don't know if you know who Mildred Lucas was. She was the wife of a Confederate, ex-Confederate jailer who gave his life protecting an African-American inmate in the jail. The jail was stormed and he was killed, and she was appointed to take his place, and at the next election, believe it or not, she won the election for jailer. There's not a lot of people that know that. Did she serve as jailer? No. Because she was a woman, the judge refused to certify the election. I hope it was a judicial judge, Judge Miller, and not a county judge. If you had been here, you wouldn't have done that, I know. The Catherine Griffin is another one, and I wasn't aware of this. In 1945, she was elected as clerk, county clerk. Pretty cool. Not a lot of people remember that. Certainly, Miss Gasser is a person that we honor. But there are other women of note. Elvira Bird. Elvira Bird worked as a sharecropper's wife and had a daughter named Gertrude Carter. Now that's her married name. Gertrude Carter worked as a sharecropper's wife in the tobacco fields, side by side. Worked as hard as Mr. Carter did, and still came in and put supper on the table and washed the clothes and fed the kids and did all those other things while Mr. Carter had a nip and smoked a cigarette. By the way, back then you rolled them in paper. They had a daughter named Connie who married a man named Mattingly. And that happens to be my mother, a woman of note, who had 12 children. One of them, the oldest, is Al Mattingly, who married Judy Wolfe. A woman of note, particularly to my son standing back there, since she birthed him. But a woman of note, and I'm taking a moment of personal privilege, with whom I celebrated 50 years of marriage this past Saturday. We dated for 7 years, and then I've been married for 50, and I made the comment, what in the world was she thinking when she said yes? Those are all personal. But remember, women of note. It means women who make a difference in your life, or women who make a difference in other lives. Another one I can tell you is Martha Reed. Martha Reed was a neighbor lady, and she whooped my butt just like my mama did when it needed to be whooped. And I cried when I stopped by and visited with her the day before she passed away. A real difference in my life. Sister Ruth Agnes, a sister, a nun, a sister of charity, taught biology at Catholic High, and had such a love for learning that she actually was the one that influenced me to go into my love, educational love, which was biology. Sister Casimir at Brescia College, Sister Martha Ann at Brescia College, Sister Ruth Garris. Probably if it hadn't been for Sister Ruth, I'd have gotten mad and quit college because I thought I was being mistreated. And she said, "Buck up, boy." And I listened to her. All of these women down through the ages have been inspiring and have left their mark. We don't memorialize them, but you do. You have today, when you march for women's rights, for women equality, when you march for equal pay. I find it interesting when we talk about equality. It's not something that you should have to fight for. Women shouldn't have had to fight for the vote. African Americans shouldn't have had to fight for the rights that they have today. Our Latinos and Asian Americans and all of those folks from foreign lands who have fought to get here, that's the fight. Once they get here, they should be treated equal, just as each and every one of you believe and proved and showed to us as you came marching down that street. Aloma asks me every year to speak here, and she does so because she knows I have 7 sisters. And each and every one of those sisters have a different story to tell. All are women of note. They've raised their families, they've done their part. And today I want to thank them as well as all of you women who are here today and all of our feminists, Mr. Glenn, who are here today. While you shouldn't have had to fight the fight, you did. You didn't give up. And all of us today are better for what you have done. All of us today are better for what you have done in the community. All of us today are better for what you will do. As I watched the Girls Inc. kids come in, I went and fist bumped every one of them. And as I look through the crowd today, we won't be equal in this community until we have a woman for mayor or a woman county judge. I hope that happens in my lifetime. But I'm not sure it will if I don't remind each and every one of you that the woman of note in my life today is my wife, Judy. And without her guidance and without her encouragement, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So, with that, I have a proclamation from the office of the County Judge Executive. Whereas in 1848, women of the United States began organizing peaceful protests for their right to fully and equally participate in workplaces, libraries, organizations, and public facilities, as well as the right to vote and participate in government. And whereas in 1971, Congress designated August 26 as Women's Equality Day to serve as a symbol of the ongoing fight for equal rights. And whereas on January 16, 1895, a group of 10 Owensboro women formed the Political Equality Club of Owensboro to secure to women the unrestricted exercise of all rights of citizenship and equal constitutional rights with men and equal protection of the law. And whereas born in Davis County in 1921, Clara Sanford Odom dedicated her life to enhancing the lives of women through numerous achievements, including founding and co-founding many local women-focused services and organizations, and her dedicated focus toward the passage of equal rights amendments, all of which exemplifies her commitment to ensuring equal rights. And whereas women play a critical role in families, the workplace, and in society as a whole, contributing to our economy, advancing our nation, and through the efforts of many equal rights advocates and champions, we get to today celebrate locally and nationally Women's Equality Day and pay tribute to all women who have and continue to strive for equality. We pay tribute to all women of note. Now therefore, I, Al Mattingly, Davis County Judge Executive, do hereby proclaim August 26, 2021 as Women's Equality Day. Ms. Dew, you want me to give it to you? Do this. And by the way, thanks for this sash. I just don't know how to wear it. It keeps falling down.
Never ask him to speak a few words. However, he sort of stole some of my thunder because next year we're hoping to be celebrating Mildred Lucas. But I want to tell you that as nice as these three men are, the day I will be happy is when there are women sitting there holding elective office in this city. We've had some. We've got one of our former city commissioners, Pam Smith-Wright, back there right now. And we will have more if you all and God are willing. Thank you for this, Judge. And I also, before I let you go, cut the next speaker, I do want to say that Jeannie Warren deserves a lot of credit because she works with the judge and she helps make sure that he gets these things done. So Jeannie is a woman of note.
Thank you all. I'm Jeannie Owen Miller, and I'm here to introduce our keynote speaker. I have to say that there's very few people that I know that would travel all the way across the state of Kentucky to come and speak to a group of women and men to celebrate women's right to vote. But Marcia Milby Ridings is such a person. She lives in London, Kentucky, and she has practiced law there, I think since 1976. She joined her father's law firm in 1976, and she went to undergraduate at Georgetown College, and she went to the University of Kentucky, yay, for her master's degree, and also she graduated from the University of Kentucky College of Law with distinction, and she has been practicing as a litigator since that time. And I think that's very, very important. You know, when I started looking at Marcia's resume that she sent to me, holy cow, it was 3 pages long, single space, and 8-point font. That's how accomplished she is. And she said, please don't embarrass me by reading all of that, and I won't. But I do want to point out some things, because when I was reading through it and what I know of her personally, there were so many similarities to Louise Gasser Kirtley that I just could not mention it. You know, first of all, she basically raised a son on her own, and she now has a son who practices law with her. Does this sound familiar? Bobby? She also has a son who is sitting on the Board of Governors of the Kentucky Bar Association for that district, and I'm sure will continue her wonderful work with the Kentucky Bar Association. She was not only known, but very highly respected in every group that she joined and worked for. But she was the first woman to lead her professional association, and that was also the case with Louise Gasser Kirtley. Marcia Milby Ridings was the first female president of the Kentucky Bar Association in 1995, and that gained a lot of traction for those women like myself who came later But she also had some other similarities to Louise. They weren't just active in their professional association, although I cannot imagine how much time was spent with everything she has done. But they were also very active in their communities and really belonged to organizations that promoted women's rights, but also children's rights, and also health and safety. She was on, public library boards. She's literally just done it all. And I'm just so blessed that she's come to say a few words. I do want to say that some of her major highlights of her professional career was that she became the University of Kentucky College of Law Hall of Fame in 2016, and she was named the Outstanding Lawyer of the Year by the Kentucky Bar Association in 2006. So you can get a little bit of an idea of what all she has done. But most importantly, I met her in the mid-'80s when we both belonged to the Kentucky Academy of Trial Attorneys. Now, for those of you that practice law out there, litigation is probably one of the hardest things to do as a lawyer. And Marcia has been a litigator pretty much all of her professional life. And there were just a handful of us. Sandy Freeberger, who is here with us today, was the president of the Kentucky Academy of Trial Attorneys about around that time, 1989, I think, Sandy. Isn't that right? Yeah. And then I became the president in 2001. And it's an organization that had very, very few women litigators. And Marcia was one of them that I first met, and she was always very, very encouraging to me. And so I have asked her to come, and she has come all the way from London. She has to drive all the way back tonight because in the morning she's got a mediation. So without further ado, please welcome Marcia Milby Rodden.
Judge Miller. It's really nice to be here in Owensboro, and I'm particularly flattered to be here to honor Louise Gasser-Kirtley, who I did not know, but she's the real First Lady of Law, who I'm sure was an inspiration to many of you all as an attorney, judge, legislator, long before being a woman lawyer was cool, and I'm sure she could really tell you a lot of stories. But I was asked to talk to you just a little bit about my experiences as a lawyer and as a bar leader. And I'm sure my stories can't possibly compare with hers, but it did give me a chance to, an opportunity to look back, way back, to my days in law school. Let's go back to 1973. The incoming class had about 150 students, 30 of which were women. Now that is more than the 10 years before us put together. We were the first group of women, large group of women in the law school. And our class was not so traditional in other ways too. It was the end of the Vietnam War. We had several Vietnam veterans in our class. And in addition to having more women than usual, some of the women were a little bit older. I, for instance, had put my husband through law school. Several women had other careers. Several women waited till their children were up in grade school before we started. So it was a different group, and the scene was certainly different with all these women around us in the halls of the University of Kentucky College of Law. However, of course, with the influx of the women, there were logistic matters. First of all, think about the restrooms. I think there might have been 3 toilets for all the women in the law school. Now there's a brand new school now, and it's been renovated, but then there were not, just little things like toilets. And the professors hardly knew what to think about this influx of women law students. We had this kindly professor whose name was Professor Ham. He was just a charming